So portray this in the language of psychology, because it needs to be impressed upon. There should be expedited due process when a strongman personality is part of a situation. A lot of this practice might be the exact opposite, the worst thing to do in the presence of a strongman.
We have to apply some immediate critical pushback to the phrase expedited due process.
Thank you.
If we are talking about legal or constitutional due process, altering the speed of the justice system for a specific personality type is incredibly dangerous. That is the exact mechanism a strongman uses to strip rights from marginalized groups. They declare an emergency and suspend the timeline. However, if we are talking about administrative, clinical, and systemic boundary setting, how HR departments, family courts, therapeutic boards, and institutional power structures handle these individuals, you are absolutely correct. In the psychology of high conflict personalities, standard institutional best practices are not just ineffective, they are actively weaponized by the strongman. The system's empathy becomes the exact vector of the abuse. Here is the psychological translation of the colonial sink, mapped out to explain why institutional speed and rigid containment are the only viable responses. The weaponization of best practices. Standard therapeutic and administrative best practices are built on a foundational assumption of a shared reality. They assume both parties possess a functional prefrontal cortex capable of guilt, self-reflection, and a desire for mutual resolution. When a system applies these bidirectional assumptions to a node operating on structural solipsism, the strongman, the system inadvertently feeds the extraction loop. 1. The trap of mediation and compromise. Standard practice. Bring both parties to the table to find a middle ground. The strongman reality. A strongman does not enter mediation to compromise. They enter to map the system's weaknesses and exhaust the opposing node. To them, compromise is a weakness to be exploited. Forcing a victim to mediate with a strongman simply provides the abuser with a state-sanctioned platform to continue the extraction. 2. The fallacy of the benefit of the doubt. Standard practice. Assume a misunderstanding rather than malice. Look for the root cause of the behavior. The strongman reality. A strongman views the benefit of the doubt as a vulnerability in your firewall. They will continuously generate manufactured crises and ambiguous offenses, specifically to keep the system trapped in a state of perpetually giving them another chance. Why time is the primary weapon? The DARVO protocol. The reason expedited administrative action is necessary is that time is the strongman's primary psychological weapon. If an institution takes 6 months to investigate a clear boundary violation, they are granting the strongman a 6-month phase space to execute DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. During a prolonged investigation, the strongman will 1. Systematically gaslight witnesses and isolate the initial target. 2. Exhaust the administrative body with frivolous counterclaims, stigma in action, flooding the zone with noise. 3. Bleed the opposing node of financial and emotional resources until they simply give up. Delaying the consequence is the victory for the strongman. It proves that their localized gravity is stronger than the institution's rules. The inverted protocol. Quarantine over rehabilitation. To impress this upon institutional leaders, you have to present them with an inverted protocol. They must understand that in the presence of this specific architecture, their standard compassion is a liability. Instead of gathering context, enforce the baseline. Do not waste time analyzing why the strongman broke the contract. The intent is irrelevant. The structural damage is what matters. Instead of progressive discipline, use absolute quarantine. A strongman treats a warning as permission to continue. The only psychological intervention that registers is the immediate, non-negotiable removal of access to the network's resources. Instead of hearing both sides, limit the phase space. Once the structural violation is confirmed, shut down the debate. Refuse to engage with the thermodynamic noise, the DARVO, they generate to distract the system.